Welcome to Start Lines and Swag Bags, presented by the Flying Pig Project. The airing of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended to replace advice from any medical, professional, or training staff. The Flying Pig Project is not affiliated with or in partnership with any other business, running clubs, coaches, or medical professionals. Thank you for listening and your support.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Start Lines and Swag Bags. This is the episode where I've been sitting here playing with the light to see which one is taking the wrinkles out of my neck, and none of them are, so the light's clearly defective. Okay, marathon season right around the corner when the training is going to start. A couple weeks, those 18-week training plans are rolling out. And if you haven't heard about the training that you can do through CARA, the Chicagoland Area Runners Association, you will from my guest. I've brought on Wes, who is the Schaumburg Site Coordinator for CARA Marathon Training, and he gives information about how all that works. But I'm doing things a little different tonight. I'm recording this introduction prior to re-listening to the episode. Normally, I'll shoot the episode. A few days later, I will listen to the whole thing because I like to have it fresh in my mind when I do the intro. But I already know that there's a part in this episode where I make the statement that people need to not feel embarrassed, not care what other people are thinking, not worry about anything else, do their own thing, focus on their goal. I mean, it's this like, welcome to my TED Talk statement. And the reason I'm recording the introduction before re-listening to the episode is I know I'm going to hear that and it's going to remind me that I'm trying to utter those words myself and get myself back into training. So this is a really, really good episode. I know I say that about every episode. I do. But the thing is that they're all fantastic in their own way because they all address other topics, but always come back to the same overall theme, which is the running community, the relationships you build with people, and the influence that all of that has both on your physical and mental abilities to perform and to reach whatever goal you're set for yourself. All right. I'm going to let you guys listen or watch. I hope you're watching. As always, thank you for supporting Start Lines and Swag Bags and listening to the show. It's because you do listen that I go looking for more guests with more topics. And I appreciate you all. Embrace the crazy to unlock a world of possibilities and enjoy.
So, guess what's happening in October? The Chicago Marathon. And so this is the time, actually, I think it's in about 3 weeks or so, that the programs or the plans start rolling out. I think it's an 18-week. I'll probably be corrected on that. That's okay. Those are all getting started. So I was like, who can I bring on that is so knowledgeable about CARA training? Because, of course, we're in the Chicagoland area, and CARA is huge. So I thought to myself, actually, I didn't. I had another guest recommend this guest. So for now, I'm going to introduce you to Wes. Wes, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone.
Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Big into running. Just turned 51. Live in Schaumburg. Grew up in Florida, and just very, very much busy with activities beyond running. With being married, having 2 girls, 18 and 14, kind of getting ready for the graduation for both of them, for junior high and for high school. So a lot going on in my life, and excited to excited about a lot of different things, but, definitely running is real big to me to kind of get through all the things that you kind of get thrown at as a parent and just life in general. So
that's a common theme that's brought up. It's a common theme too. It's brought up a lot. Running is what a lot of us do to escape everything else. So, funny story. I do make people think back as to when they may have met me. Now, I'm not going to do that to you because I love my story of how I remember you better. Okay. So I think this is actually also when we first met. So I was working at the Mile, and it was several weeks before the marathon. And you brought in a pumpkin. And on that pumpkin, you had so many people who had written their name and their time. And we held it in the store so that other people could write their name and time on the pumpkin.
So, yes. So that I completely forgot about that, but I always have random crazy ideas like that to try to have a little fun with the running season and having a race like that. So pretty funny. A great pumpkin patch.
So I think you do that every year. You don't do that every year?
I don't do that every year. That was just special for that year.
But of course, you're here to talk about your involvement with CARA. But first, I'd like you to share like your own personal running dirty history, whatever you'd like to share with that.
How did I get into running?
Yeah.
So that is kind of a funny story. My dad had a different style of parenting, and I had two older brothers that were in cross country in high school running, and I was not interested at all in running cross country. I was just trying to gain muscle for baseball, and I thought that I needed to build muscle and get to the next level, and running was going to take away from all of that. So I was not going to go try out when my dad wanted me to try out. So what ended up happening is I had three older brothers, but the third oldest one is a senior and I was a freshman. He was giving me rides home. So he and my dad came up with a plan to, they had to, me in the car, and my brother was pretending to drive me home, pulled up to the track, popped open the trunk, gave me a pair of running shoes, and he said, Dad said to find a way to get a ride home from one of these people out here. And so that was the tryouts for cross country. So that's how I ended up getting into cross country and getting into running, and ended up just making some friends of people I never imagined being friends with. So it was, girls and boys were together most of the time in cross country. A little bit different than it is today, where they haven't separated. But it was quite a fun experience, doing that all through high school, and just kind of always had a little bit of in the back of my mind, I always have running there. If I need to lose weight was my thinking when I was a kid, and I could always go back to it. And then I eventually was just running to always stay in shape. It didn't really do anything magical. Just would probably run no more than 3 miles, and that would be the extent of it, and that would be too much for me. And I remember maybe in cross country, getting talked to doing a half marathon, and I thought that was the hardest race that I could ever possibly do. But I always had it in the back of my mind, maybe I'll do something in the future, but I'm just going to run casually and just do that to stay in shape. Then my third oldest brother decided that he signed up for the Chicago Marathon. He actually signed up for the Flying Pig, and he had his reunion happen around the same time, so he couldn't do that. So he decided to sign up for the Chicago one, and he wasn't living in Chicago, he was living in Florida. So he just decided to sign up for it, and then sign me up too, and just let me know in April that we're going to do our first marathon together. I'm going to come to Chicago. I signed you up for Michael J. Fox. So in 2015, he signed me up that way. So that's how that's how I started. And I didn't start off with groups. I started off with just the kind of Hal Higdon training program on my phone, and I did it all by myself. And it was a miserable, hard experience. Remembering going through it, I was happy to finish the marathon. I did it with my brother, but I remembered how awful it was. And I'm like, I see all these people happy and I don't understand. And so I decided that there must be, I have to sign up for it again just to see if I could enjoy it, because it was so awful. And so I signed up for it again just to see if I could maybe enjoy it a little bit more. Same thing. It was just terrible 10 miles at the end, and it was not fun. And then after trying it the second time, third time, I ended up kind of started running with the groups. And that's when I signed up with Bussy and ran with the groups for the first time. And that really changed everything around and I was doing everything that you could possibly do wrong, where I was trying to run, fast, and was monotonous, running the same pace all the time. And just wasn't using all the things that you could use, for salt tablets to the goose to wearing the right things. I was just always running into, sores everywhere. Just, it was awful. And so finally I started to have, the group, everybody's telling me, nonchalantly, oh, you do this, oh, you do that. And then started to figure out things to where, it's a lot easier just by doing the little things. And then, so when you have a group to work with and pushing you along, and that ended up being really, really, taking me to the next level. So I started to enjoy running, and I started to sign up for more. And that's how I got into running the multiple marathons. But for CARA, they talked me into it during COVID. I was running with, I didn't get into the lottery with the Chicago Marathon. And I was talked into joining Mercy Home, and then Mercy Home was pretty much, there was mostly just a few guys I got really close with. That wasn't too many people that were running during COVID, but then they needed someone to run the Schaumburg site during that period of time, and I got talked into it, and decided to kind of take the reins and start helping out that way, and just was helping out and volunteering my time, and I just ended up getting involved and doing it that way. I love helping out and helping people reach their goals, and it just kind of was a good fit. It's one of those things where I don't have time after work. I don't know how I'm doing it, but usually if I do all this stuff in the morning before everybody gets up, then then I can make a game of it. If I make a game of it, it makes it fun in my life to just try to see if I could do it. And if I get into something where I could get into a routine with anything, I pretty much am a stickler. I'll stick to it, and I won't miss anything if I do it that way.
Going back to the topic of, you tried everything by yourself, and then you started to find a group. And we talk about using other people as resources for nutrition, for pacing, hydration, all these other things. Even though I am a firm believer in the, you have to just try it. And 9 times out of 10, it may not work, but you have to try it for yourself. But I really like it in the group setting, like when everybody tries it. Because you're all working together in that way.
The weirdest part is I was the most anti in my mind with running with the group, because I wanted to focus on getting better, and I didn't want anybody to distract me or keep me from reaching my goal. It's kind of a weird thing that was in my head. And then when I got into the group running, I was also quiet, and I didn't understand anybody that would talk during the run. And eventually, I would have music in my ears, and eventually I don't run without music anymore. I enjoy talking as I run, and I feel like I'm more connected. And the craziest part is just the breathing seems to appropriately, go through with, if you're running the right pace, running a little bit slower, than running faster. Your breathing kind of fits in line the way you should train when you're running long distance anyway. So it kind of made me laugh when I started talking and enjoying people's company, and then also running. Well, you're forced to actually run in the correct pace that you're supposed to run when you're running the long distance anyway. So it's kind of funny how all these little things kind of fit in line with doing the group runs and running with others.
So I'm gonna get you on that one, because that's a point that sometimes someone will make a point, and I have to repeat it, because so many times we talk about how fast or how slow, and it's a very personal, but you make an excellent point. If you cannot have a conversation with the person that you are with, you are most likely overexerting.
Yes.
And if your point is for like long run training, that is a really good indicator that maybe you are working your body too hard. That being said, exactly. I do joke about the individuals I know that are extremely fast, and I can hear them talking the whole time, and I'm back with the group that have the inhalers because we're gonna die. So I always enjoy being with somebody who can talk, because I can't, because there are some people who really can't. I mean, they never get into that cardio place that they can. So that that's a really good.
Hear my whole thing.
I need to come run with you, or at this point, I need to go 2 steps forward. Okay, so
that's one of the main things. That's running too fast is probably the biggest problem that everyone has when they get into running. So even if I'm in a run, and I was trying to break 4, finally did 9-minute pace. In all reality, if you look at the long trainings, it should be like between 10:20 to 10:30 pace when you're doing those long runs. So the weird part is, if you're signing up to do the long runs on the Saturdays, you should probably be picking the 10 or 10:30s if you're going to run, a 9 or 9:15 pace. And that doesn't get talked about often enough to where it's always there's always confusion where if you're going to run a 9 pace marathon, that you should do the 9 pace training group, which I think that for whatever reason it doesn't get talked about enough.
I'm pleased that point has come up in this conversation, because that is something that really is not talked about enough. When we talk about 2 things, long runs during training, and also recovery runs, some people just don't quite understand technically what those mean for you. If you do run a 9-minute mile, your long runs are probably and should be at a 10 to 10:30 pace approximately.
Right.
But your recovery run may be an 11-minute pace or slower. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think people get so caught up in seeing what other people do. I know some people have come on and they've talked about, this fast person, did a recovery run at a 7:30 pace. Well, yes, because their race pace is a 5:15. So you don't compare. You can't compare that. You have to do what's smart for you. But you only learn that the hard way.
Yep, that's true.
That's your first injury will set you on the path.
Yes, it will.
I shouldn't laugh about that. All right. So during COVID, then you took over. Was there somebody already doing Schaumburg, or did they start like a new chapter? Or
nobody was really. There was, maybe 10 or 15 people that were there, so that wasn't really needing to be run during that time. But I think somebody had left. I don't know who it was prior to that year of being a site coordinator. So I don't remember or recall who it was. But that's when Tim Bradley approached me, and I got friendly with the group leaders, and just was volunteering to help them out with, putting out the, the coolers and the Gatorades, and then they were needing some extra help, and they just wanted to find out if I'd be interested. So that's where that came about.
How many group leaders? So you're the site coordinator, and then you have group leaders, and then you have participants. How many pacers do you normally put with a group of people?
So we max out around 4, I think would be efficient, because 2, sometimes it's hit or miss, where you might need some coverage and you end up with two of them out at the same time, and that could be where, to where there's a problem. And a lot of times it's during those times where everybody's off, holiday season, where you might miss a couple of Saturdays, and unfortunately there's still people that are there that need group leaders.
Well, then that's a valid point. And I was going to go there next. How many people, so because you signed up for this and it runs from June till the marathon. And
right.
Technically you meet every Saturday.
So every Saturday and Wednesday they have a track workout over in Palatine. It's right back there off the community center, right off the expressway, off of Northwest Highway.
Okay, so you've got, and so people pay to be in this program that's 18 weeks long, and it meets on Wednesday nights and it meets on Saturday. Now, of course, just because they pay for it doesn't mean they're going to show up. So I guess my question is, over the years you've done this, as just a guesstimate per se, what percentage of the people start and are actually still there at the end?
Yeah, that's a good question. What percentage? There might be like the 70% that are that are there from start to finish. But there's also a group of people who don't come until we start to get to double digits. They're not group leaders, but they're just runners that want to run with others during the long distance times, and they don't really focus on needing to be there during the kind of the beginning stages.
Well, because there's different levels, correct? There's a beginner level. You tell me.
That's correct. Beginner, intermediate, and advanced.
Okay. And is the difference in those purely distance, or is there any other difference between those 3 groups?
Yeah, more distance, longer, more longer runs. So versus 1 20-miler, you have the advanced will run maybe 3 20-milers.
So, and I would assume then the beginners also start at the shortest distance.
Correct.
Okay. At some point, can somebody move? So you need group leaders for, say, let's just say we're working with this 9.
So they're for novice. They're for the group leaders are going to run the Saturday long runs, the mileage off of novice, off of the beginners.
Okay.
Because you'll get a list of the miles for each 3 categories. And so they send out the newsletter the Sunday before the week of what the week schedule is. And they'll have that sent out through, I'll get it and post it, and send it on our website. We've got the Schaumburg, Bussy Woods, CARA Summer Marathon Training Program. So we'll post it there, and we'll also get everyone's emails, so we'll send it by emails too.
So everybody knows what everybody's going to be able to do. Because if you came one week and you wanted to, and you were running with the 10:30s, and for some odd reason, you want to try running at a 10, maybe it's a cut down week. So you say, I'm going to run with the 10s. They can do that.
They can do that.
because realistically, you are all at Bussy Woods. Now, when you do get into, because Bussy is 7.47 miles. So when you do, 7.47. Let's make that clear. Make that clear. So when you start basically at 8, are you always making up the mileage around the main loop, or are you going on any of the out and backs?
Yeah, mostly making it up on, through little side areas on the loop when we're getting into longer distances.
Well, because there's so many.
It just drives me crazy running the same loop twice. So I feel like that drives me crazy. It's got to drive everyone else crazy. So I try to throw in a little bit of something different.
That makes total sense. And realistically, the reason people come to the Schaumburg location is because they're from the area. And I would imagine most of them, not all of them, but most of them have a working knowledge of Bussy Woods and, some of the side paths that we're talking about. But at any given time, it's still, even if you take those little out and backs, you're still in almost not a confined area, but you're still where a lot of people are.
Correct.
And so to me, that's just a nice, safe thing, knowing that you have people that close to you.
Right. And it's also nice to know that most everyone that's in the training program is not doing it for the first time. Most everyone is a CARA member or Bussy Woods running group member. So I feel confident that, we're on the lookout for anyone that's new to help them out. And we got I don't know of any other group where people in our groups they're really nice and they'll help out and do anything they can to make people feel comfortable. And so if I feel anybody's going to be going off on the beaten path, we're all communicating with each other, helping each other out.
Well, I mean, even obviously, I've never done the CARA training. I don't foresee it, even though Rupesh was really pushing for it. I look at a lot of the pictures, obviously, that come out of Schaumburg especially, and on any given day, I can probably pick out at least 5 or 7 people that I know from, just the whole running community around us. And not only that, week after week, you're basically seeing the same people running around the same place, and it feeds into that topic that I bring up a lot of just about community. You not only have the community of the group itself, but you have the community of seeing other people that may not be, in your particular training group week after week. And I think that helps create a bigger sense of community. But it's funny because you talked earlier about starting off as someone who needed to train by themselves. And I was notorious, actually I am still notorious, for running with a group, but preferring to be listening to something.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've never really, I'm obviously part of 2 running groups, so I'm not going to say I haven't run with groups of people. But I've never done like a training cycle with a group of people.
You should join.
Yeah.
Come on aboard.
Anyway, okay. So here's the meat of it. Actually, stop yet. Why if someone says to you, why am I gonna join your group? I can go run the mileage. I can actually go run Bussy anytime I want anyway. What's the benefit of being part of the group?
It's just the community, the experience. There's nothing like it. There's stuff that you learn on the way that you never thought you would, never even thought about before that you learn. It just makes it makes it an experience that, the camaraderie is pretty incredible that you have. And, just like anything, you kind of feel like you want to do it by yourself because you don't want to be embarrassed. You want to accomplish something. You feel like you don't want you don't want to be exposed to, being with a part of a group if you kind of fail in that manner. But the real true reality is that you'll get through things, and you are expected to fail at a lot of different things throughout this whole process, and that's a part of what the unique experience is with running with a group, that you kind of get past a lot of the stuff that kept you from moving forward and doing things that you didn't think you'd be able to do in the first place.
So I have to tell you something. So what I do after episodes, and I will leave this in, what I do is I go back and I listen to every single episode, every single one, because I do that before I send it off to the editor. And I find that I always say the same thing, like, oh my gosh, that's so important. I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't have another euphemism to say, I'm glad you brought that up. Because I talk a lot about being a mature runner. Now, to me, a mature runner is someone who accepts themselves in all ways. Their pace, their ability, their lack of ability, their ability to be accountable, their understanding that they will fail. That maybe, I'm going to take this way further, that running with a group on a 85-degree day for 12 miles is disgusting. Everything about it is disgusting and gross. But we all share in it together, and it's okay.
That's right.
There's so many pieces that people have to get over themselves about. And me telling you all to get over it means nothing. Because everybody, me, you, anybody who listens has to figure out their own way to get past their own level of embarrassment or their own insecurities and see what they can do.
And that's the beauty of it. And the most interesting thing is the different levels and the extremes that you can go to and look back on thinking, oh my gosh, why was it such a big deal to me? In the first place, really wasn't a big deal at all. And, I think I think you hear this over and over again about running, I think, and failing as a part of running, but I think I heard third of the training, you should suck. Third of the training, you should do okay. Then a third of the training, you should do really well. And so when you're sucking and you're not having your best day, well, good. You're doing the right things. You're running the program the right way. You shouldn't be running well all the time. You should suck some of it. So that's the beauty of it is you kind of take it in. And I kind of looked at the 20 miler as I hope that's my worst run, and it stinks. And it's usually the hottest time before you have your fall marathon, and you're usually going to have a tougher time running that race, that 20 miler. And then in all actuality, the 26-mile marathon with, just a month later ends up being, a much easier run. So if you put your mindset there, then you're going to be way ahead of the game.
As we talked about managing expectations and getting better every time, and maybe not necessarily accomplishing our goals, you, of course, have gone past running.
Yes. So I got into what's that book by Can't Hurt Me. Have you heard of that one? You Can't Hurt Me from David Goggins.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can't.
I have not read it. I know I do have a friend of mine who is a very dedicated follower of David Goggins.
So I read that book. It was interesting. It's it's the kind of the mental side of it, or like the self-talk. And his story is pretty difficult to hear of his childhood. of what he went through was one of the hardest things to hear at the first part of the story. But kind of the mentality that he got to, what he did, and a lot of it kind of stood out to me as far as a lot of things made sense of the kind of the self-doubt things that come up at anything and any sport related activity that you get into where you want to give up. And so a lot of it's just, your body's always trying to take the easy way out. So it's always telling you that you're done with, what you're doing and you can't do anymore when, you kind of made it up that it's only about 40% of what you could, of what you're doing right now is just a small percentage of what you can actually do. And so he kind of goes through telling himself things to get through that, to get up past that by doing things a little bit longer and pushing himself a little bit more until he gets past it to where then it becomes easier. And so it's a lot of simple things and activities that he does repetitively, which is really kind of just telling yourself different things when you're battling yourself out there when you're running. And so, a big part of it is also just kind of signing up for something. He kind of talks about how everyone talks about things that they've done in the past, but for me, it's always what's next. You should always challenge yourself and then sign up for something first, and then you'll be able to, put yourself in that mindset of here's what you need to do in order to accomplish that goal. So he kind of made that as a part of, his mindset in order to continue to achieve goals, and then keep signing up for different things to help improve yourself. So that's where I got into, well, let me try to see if I could do, sign up for a triathlon. Let me see if I could learn how to swim. Let me see if I could, now that I could do, swimming, and now that I could do biking, now let me see if I could do, just a basic triathlon. So then I started to push it. Let me try to do more. And I finally got to accomplish the half Ironman. I signed up for it, not even knowing that I could do a triathlon in the first place. And then I was able to accomplish it. So I've I accomplished my first Ironman in 2023 in Florida. And then I ended up still not being able to accomplish it in Wisconsin. It's one of the hardest ones on the circuit because of the hilly bike ride. And so the first time I missed the first bike loop cutoff on the first go around. Second time I passed the first bike loop cutoff, but I missed the second bike loop. I missed the cutoff time was like at 6:00 there. And the third time I finally got through the bike and got to the run. And then I was completely done at the run. So that was my next attempt, is to try to get past that. So that each time have time frames that you have to hit in order to move on. So it's just, I didn't complete it, so I got to go complete it and then just come closer each time. And so that's the one.
Your perseverance is amazing. But as I'm listening to that, it really is the same as trying to, you do a 5-hour marathon. Now I want to do a 4-hour marathon. Now I want to do a 3-hour marathon. It really is the same thing. It may be 3 sports to get it done, but the overall concept is exactly the same. If you do complete it this year, is it this year? When is it? Now, when you do finish it in September, will you do it again, or will you do a different one?
I would probably like to try something different, because that's
God.
So I mean, there's the ultra marathoners that are out there. So I actually tried to attempt the Hennepin 100 last year, and I didn't accomplish it. I got to mile 40.
I didn't know that. I mean, okay. I suppose the question could be, well, how would you know that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not one to advertise. I like to kind of post things randomly, but yeah. So I know, I feel like most of the people that I saw out there that I talked to were, very inspiring, and they were talking about how the training, how you do it, and more time on your feet. It seems like there's just a certain way of doing it that's not as complicated as people make it out to be. So it's kind of solving that puzzle in an efficient way. Seems like it's possible and doable. You just got to figure out how to do it.
To me, it doesn't sound crazy. To me, it's like, why can't you do that? Why can't you go sign up?
That's the mentality I started to pick up. Why not test myself and try to do it? And, kind of it's the whole what's next mentality. If I can do this, can I do something else that might be a little bit more? And, if I feel like I can, there's a map to do it. So, and people that I can talk to about that have done it. So it's just kind of fun. I sit at work all day, sit behind a desk. I look at a computer, and it's miserable because my body's so tight, and just, it just makes me feel a lot more alive when I get out there, and my body thanks me for it.
As we talked about earlier, this part of the conversation of this episode is probably, or hands down, what's going to stay with me, because you're talking about going and meeting and the new people, all that, and we talked, or I said, you have to get over yourself, you have to get past the embarrassment, you have to get past the initial awkwardness of the start, and just jump in and do it.
Yeah. And no matter the result, you feel good just by going out and trying it.
All right, so that's gonna be that's gonna be what's on my mind now for the weekend. I'm just letting you know. All right. Okay, so last thoughts from you to anyone, who, as we've been discussing, first of all, A, get over yourself. B, everybody gets embarrassed. And some people have the ability to get past those things better than others. But, what is your one thing or two things that you want to say to somebody who's like kind of sitting back and going, it's too overwhelming for me.
Yeah, and it's hard not to be overwhelmed when you're talking to people that do it often, and talk about all these different things that they're doing. So it's just trying to convince them to do it and letting them know it's not as hard, that it's harder than it looks, and kind of best way to do it would be doing it with a group of people that have a combination of people that have had experience doing it and people that are starting out, and that's kind of the best way to get into anything. So if you're going to try something out that's that's a marathon where it's longer distance than you've ever done before, it's a lot simpler than you would think, and it's a lot easier with doing it with a group and having a structure behind it. So they have a program that's 18 weeks that kind of helps you build up the endurance that you need in order to have a successful race.
I know I do, and I think others do. You build it up in your head, things that you shouldn't be thinking about. You build it up in your head that other people are caring about, what you look like, what you're doing, how fast you are. And, at some point, I don't care anymore, because what you think of me, I don't care about. And if they do think those things about you, then I don't want to deal with them anyway, because they can save their opinions for themselves, because I don't care.
And you get past that thinking too, and then you actually look forward to just being with the group and being there on a Saturday.
I have to tell you that I have done many episodes, and I think you take the prize right now for probably the most positive I'm taking away and thinking about what I may now do this summer, because maybe now I am going to mix it up. I mean,
all right, I like it.
What's the worst that could happen?
That's right. That's right. You only live once. You do it.
I'm still not coming to marathon training. All right. Thank you again for coming on the show and sharing what you did, because I think this is an episode that's going to hit home with so many different people. So thank you. For all of you out there, thank you so much for listening to the Flying Pig Project. It's because, or listening to Start Lines and Swag Bags by the Flying Pig Project. It's because of you people that listen to the show and give me feedback that I'm going and getting more people to be on these episodes that I think will give information and advice that like was presented in this episode that I know I need, and if I need it, I know somebody else out there does too. Embrace the crazy to unlock a world of possibilities, which I think is what this episode was all about. Peace out, and everybody have a good night.
Peace out.
Okay, you have balloons today.